You're drifting. Not in your bed, not in your dreams, but somewhere far from the land. The waves whisper like ghosts. The air tastes of salt, sweat, and something older than time. It's the 1700s, and you're not a soldier. You're something worse. You're a pirate. There's no marching band here. No glory. No medals. Just a creaking wooden coffin of a ship. A crew that smells like rot and betrayal. And a captain who smiles like a shark. You signed up for treasure. What you got was torment. But it's too late to turn back now. You're here because you want to know what it really took to survive on a pirate ship. And not in a storybook way. Not in the sanitized Hollywood version. But in the version that smells like death, that wakes you up at night sweating. The version told by those who didn't survive long enough to write it down. This is War Stories for Sleep. And tonight you're not drifting off easy. But before we unroll the map and cut into the real story, make sure you're subscribed. But stories don't tell themselves. And around here, we never leave a tale untold. Ready? Then grab the ropes, check the powder, and listen close. Because once we set sail, there's no turning back. You don't remember the dock. You barely remember your name. All you know is you've traded dry land for something older, rougher, meaner. The ship they put you on doesn't have a name. Not a real one. The crew just calls her the Beast. Because she groans when she moves. She growls in storms. And when she's hungry, she takes. She's not some majestic frigate with polished rails and fluttering flags. She's a splintered, scorched, tar-soaked monster of a boat, patched with old planks and new blood. She smells like fish guts and gunpowder. The sails? Torn in places, stitched in others like a wounded creature that keeps crawling forward, refusing to die. You didn't walk aboard. You were dragged, shoved, pushed down the gangplank by a man who didn't care if you fell in. Welcome to piracy. Your first step onto the deck? Slippery. Sticky. It could be seawater. It could be blood. No one bothers to tell you which. The men barely look up. They're busy. Knotting ropes. Sharpening blades. Hauling up barrels that groan louder than the crew. A few are passed out drunk already. It's barely morning. The captain isn't here yet. You'll learn to dread him. But right now, you're just trying not to throw up. You're handed a mop, not a sword, not a pistol. Just a mop with bristles like nails. This is how you start, someone grunts. His teeth are black. His eye is gone. His hands are raw from rope burn. You don't ask questions. You swab. The wood beneath you is cracked. You hear things moving below deck, rats maybe. Maybe worse. Above, the sails flap like wings of some blind animal. You see clouds gathering. The sky changes colour like it's angry. The sea does not care if you're ready. The ship does not care if you're scared. There's a rhythm here. A language made of stomps, slaps and shouted curses. You don't understand it yet. But you will. Someone tells you your hammock is below. It's not a room. It's a space between barrels. It smells like wet rope and despair. There's no privacy on a pirate ship. No silence. Just creaks, coughs and snoring. And always, always that dripping sound. You can't tell where it comes from, but it never stops. Later the food comes out. It's called salt junk. Some kind of meat. You hope. They give you hardtack too. It looks like a biscuit. It feels like a rock. You break a tooth on your first bite. Someone laughs. Get used to that. Pain is funny here. The captain arrives in the afternoon. No announcement. No ceremony. Just footsteps that make men straighten up like the devil himself stepped aboard. He's tall, not young, not old, just sharp. Everything about him is sharp. His voice, his eyes, even his silence. He doesn't yell. He doesn't need to. Men fear him like a storm. You don't know why. Yet. He looks at you once, then turns away. That one glance, it makes your stomach twist. Someone whispers, "Last new guy lasted 4 days." You wonder what happened, you don't ask. Night comes faster at sea. The horizon swallows the sun whole. No twilight, no soft fading. Just day, then nothing. The stars don't look like they did on land. They're sharper, colder. Your first night's sleep is a kind of war. Your hammock rocks like a cradle built by lunatics. Your muscles ache. Your ears can't stop listening to the creaks, the coughs, the rats. Then a scream, short, cut off. You hear boots, a splash. No one speaks. You don't ask. This is not a place for questions. At dawn the captain speaks. One sentence. No speech. No welcome. He walks the deck and says, "Any man who doesn't pull his weight will feed the sea." Then he walks away. That's it. That's your orientation. Your hands will blister. Your back will bend. Your belly will stay half empty, always. But you won't die. Not yet. You'll learn the ropes. Literally. You'll learn the names of the sails, the angles of wind, the moods of the sea. You'll learn when to speak, when to shut up, and when to grab your blade without being told. Because on this ship, respect isn't given. It's bled for. Welcome aboard the Beast. You're not a pirate yet, but you're no landlubber anymore. Somewhere in between, somewhere dark, somewhere dangerous. And the sea? She's watching. Always. There's a taste in the air you can't scrub off your tongue. Salt, sweat and splinters. The salt is everywhere. It crusts the edges of your sleeves. It seeps into the seams of your skin. You wake up with it burning your lips and stinging your eyes. It dries on your clothes like frost, only sharper. The sweat, that's yours. It starts before the sun rises and doesn't stop after it sets. You sweat while you haul, you sweat while you climb, you sweat while you sleep. And the splinters, they live in your hands now. Little knives, quiet reminders that this ship eats softness. Your job this week is the bilge. It sounds harmless until you see it. The bilge is the lowest point of the ship. It's where everything collects. Water, blood, rat droppings, vomit, dead fish, and worse things you can't name. It sloshes around in the dark, oily and thick, like the ship is bleeding from the inside. You take a bucket, no gloves, you start scooping. Every lift feels heavier than the last. The smell crawls into your lungs, clings to your clothes, and follows you to sleep. Nobody thanks you. They never do. But you see the way the older crew watches, not with kindness, calculation, like they're measuring how long you'll last before you gag, before you quit, before you break. Above deck, the sun's just as cruel. It reflects off the sea like a mirror trying to blind you. You pull ropes until your arms feel hollow. You scrub wood that's already clean because someone told you to. You climb the rigging just to learn what real fear tastes like. Up there, in the crow's nest, the wind is a fist. One wrong step and the beast throws you to the sea. The ropes burn. Every knot you tie rubs your fingers raw. No one teaches you how. You're expected to learn by watching, by trying, by bleeding. If you get it wrong, you'll hear about it. Not in words, in bruises, in extra shifts, in cold stares and harder tasks. This is how the ship teaches, with silence, repetition, and pain. Food becomes a routine of disappointment. The same salted meat that smells like leather. The same biscuit that cracks when you bite it. Sometimes there's something floating in the stew. You eat it anyway. Hunger makes you grateful for lies. One day, they pass around dried beans. Half are worm-ridden. No one cares. You chew, you swallow, you pretend it's better than it is. Pretend hard enough, and it becomes true. Almost. Water is rationed, not because it's scarce, but because thirst keeps you obedient. You're allowed a small tin cup per day. If the sun's out, it vanishes from your body before you can feel it. Some of the older crew drink seawater mixed with vinegar. It makes them cough. It makes them mad. They say it wakes the bones up. The others. They're not friends, not yet, maybe never, but they're around. One has no tongue. Cut out, they say, for sassing a captain years ago. Another keeps a pet rat in his coat, feeds it scraps and talks to it like a brother. There's a giant of a man named Bram who sleeps with one eye open. He doesn't snore, he growls. His fists are the size of tankards, and he's quick to use them. No one talks back to Bram. At night you clean your hands with rum. It burns, but it keeps the rot away. Infection is the real captain here. A splinter can kill you. A blister can become a grave. They say salt water heals. That's a lie. Salt water only preserves pain. You learn to count days by the shift in starlight. There's no calendar, no clock, no bell that tells you when it ends. Just the aching in your spine, the calluses on your palms, and the heaviness behind your eyes. You stop dreaming about home. That's too far away now. You dream of dry socks, of warm bread, of waking up without fear. The only comfort comes in moments too small to catch. A breeze that doesn't sting, a laugh that doesn't mean violence. A second of silence where the sea is calm and the ship doesn't groan like it's dying. You take those moments and tuck them deep inside, because they won't come often. One morning you're hauling sail with a man called Lojack. He doesn't speak much, just hums to himself while he works. His hands are missing 2 fingers. You ask what happened. He says, "Rope bit me. Rope always bites back." Then he smiles. Full grin. No teeth. You don't ask more questions. You see your first flogging on the 5th day. A boy maybe younger than you, caught asleep on night watch. They tie him to the mast, strip his shirt off. The boatswain swings the cat-o'-nine-tails like he's painting with blood. No one flinches. No one looks away. Afterward, they throw a bucket of seawater on the boy. He doesn't scream, not out loud. You ask someone why they didn't just toss him overboard. He shrugs. He'll either learn or he won't. Rope or water, doesn't matter in the end. The ship is alive. Not in the magical way stories say, but in the worse ways. She moans when the wood shifts. She shudders when the wind hits wrong. She breathes through the cracks in the hull, always whispering secrets no sane man wants to hear. You start to believe she knows who's weak, and she hungers. After 2 weeks, your hands no longer bleed. Your back doesn't scream. The blisters have become calluses. The stink clings to you like a second skin. You move like the others now, slow, deliberate. Eyes always scanning the deck. Not just for danger, but for signs of anger, of change, of betrayal. You're not comfortable, but you're surviving, and that's the first step. You're still not a pirate, not really, but the beast is watching, and she's not done with you yet. You don't see the captain much. That's the first thing you notice. He's not a man of the crew. He's above it, distant, detached. He doesn't shout orders from the quarterdeck like in the stories. He whispers them, or says nothing at all. His presence is enough. When he steps onto the deck, conversations die mid-sentence, laughter evaporates, even the wind seems to hush. They call him Calder. No title, no Captain Calder, just Calder, like a warning. He's not loud, not flamboyant. He's lean, quiet, deliberate. Everything about him is sharpened. His jaw, his words, his eyes. You swear he can see through wood, through lies, through men. He walks like a man with nothing to prove, and that's the most dangerous kind. His coat isn't flashy, just well worn. His boots always polished. His hands, gloved, always gloved. They say no one's seen his bare hands in 10 years. No one dares to ask why. You learn early that Calder doesn't punish out of rage, he punishes out of principle. One morning a deckhand drops a barrel of powder. It doesn't ignite, but the sound alone makes everyone freeze. The barrel rolls across the deck, harmless in the end, but the damage is done. The man who dropped it starts apologising before it stops moving. Calder appears without warning, no fanfare, just suddenly there. He looks at the barrel, then at the man, then at you. Then he nods. 2 men from the crew drag the deckhand to the bow. They don't strike him, they don't yell, they just bind his arms and hang him by the shoulders over the rail, not by the neck, just far enough to let the blood rush out of his arms. He screams once, then whimpers. Calder doesn't stay to watch. He's already walking away. Hours pass before they pull the man back up. His arms hang limp. Useless now. He won't be hauling sail again. Someone tells you later, Calder's mercy is worse than his wrath. Fear, you realise, isn't just the captain's tool. It's his language, his currency, the thing that keeps the ship balanced. You've seen fights break out over stale bread, over card games, over glances, but no one touches Calder's rules. No one speaks against his decisions. No one even jokes about him. One night you hear a whisper, someone mocking Calder's limp. You didn't even know he had one, but apparently it shows when he's tired. By dawn that crewman is gone. No one speaks of him. No one saw him leave. But his hammock is empty. His gear's still there, and there's a fresh patch nailed to the mast, a square of cloth soaked in blood, fluttering like a warning flag. Every man on board fears something different. Some fear drowning, some fear dying in battle, some fear disease, rats burning alive, but all of them, without exception, fear Calder. You learn to mimic that fear. It keeps you alive. There's no affection between Calder and his crew, no speeches, no bonds, only structure. You get the feeling he doesn't want loyalty, just obedience. It's cleaner, more reliable. Loyalty bends, obedience does not. Sometimes you wonder what made him this way. But then you remember, questions are dangerous. He never eats with the crew. His meals are delivered to his quarters. No one's allowed in unless summoned. The first mate, an older man named Thorne, handles most of the daily barking. He's the voice. Calder is the shadow. The rare times you hear Calder speak directly, it's almost worse. His voice isn't loud, but it carries. Low, cold, a tone that makes your spine itch. He doesn't ask. He tells. And when he tells you something, you don't forget it. On your 10th day, Calder catches you looking at him too long. You weren't even aware of it. Just curiosity, trying to figure the man out. But then his eyes catch yours. Just for a second. You freeze. Time stops. He doesn't blink. Doesn't scowl. Just stares. Until you look away. That night your hammock's been moved. You don't know who did it. It's now hung near the galley, next to the barrels of rotting fruit and buckets of grease. The smell alone is a punishment. No one mentions it, but they all saw it. You've been warned, silently. Calder runs this ship by fear, not just because it works, but because it's precise, controlled. Fear doesn't need loyalty. It doesn't ask for second chances. It doesn't beg for understanding. It just keeps men quiet, keeps them useful. And here's the truth you come to understand by the end of the week. This ship isn't Calder's kingdom. It's his experiment. And you're part of the test. He's measuring what you can take, how far he can bend you before you snap, how long you'll survive before you break like the others. Some call him mad, some call him brilliant, but all of them call him captain. And that, in the end, is enough. The beast sails because of fear, not wind, not crew, not compass. Just the quiet, cold knowledge that Calder is watching. Always. There's a rhythm to rot on a pirate ship. It's not fast. It's not loud. It creeps in slow, quiet and stubborn, like a sickness that never quite leaves. And no matter how much you scrub, how many buckets you haul, how strong the salt air is, it's always there, in the corners, in the cracks, in your gut. You start noticing it first in the barrels. The ones marked for water have a strange slick on the rim, a thin green film like the sea left something behind. You scrape it off, fill your cup, drink carefully. Too fast and it hits your stomach like a punch. Too slow and the taste lingers. Metallic, warm, slightly sour, like someone rinsed the barrel with old fish. The grog doesn't help. That's the drink you're given most days, half water, half cheap rum. It's not a luxury, it's a method. Keeps the crew quiet, numbs the hunger, dulls the infection, doesn't cure it, just distracts you from it. They say grog keeps the sickness away. That's a lie. All it does is make the sickness feel like someone else's problem, until it's yours. And it will be. The grime never washes off. Not really. You scrub your hands after every shift. Use salt, sand, sometimes even sharp blade when things get under the nails. Still, they stay black. Like the ship stained you, owned you. Your hair mats in the humidity. Your skin dries in patches and peels under the sun. You sweat through your shirt before noon and sleep in it still damp. Fungus grows in your boots if you forget to empty them. Lice in your hammock if you don't shake it out daily. But it's the gut rot that gets you first. It starts as a twist. Not quite pain, just discomfort. A slow turn in your belly, like something's curled up inside and doesn't want you there. You ignore it. Everyone does. You've seen worse. You've smelled worse. But the twist becomes a burn, then cramps, then your bowels turn against you. You spend your time squatting over a bucket, gripping your stomach, trying not to vomit while everything else falls out of you. There's no doctor on board, just Thorn, who keeps a sack of herbs and a knife. If you're lucky, he gives you the herbs. If not, well, the knife's faster. One man doesn't make it through the night. Young, maybe 17, maybe younger. They say it was the stew, or the rat meat, or the water. No one really knows, doesn't matter. He's dead. They roll his body in sailcloth and toss him over without ceremony. No prayer, no pause, just splash. Gone. The next day you're offered stew again. You eat it. You always do. Because hunger is worse than fear. Fear at least keeps you cautious. Hunger just eats your mind. You try to remember the taste of real food. Fresh bread, fruit, cheese. It's like trying to remember a dream after waking. Vague, distant, gone before you can grab it. Once a week, if the wind's calm and Calder's mood quieter than usual, the cook hands out citrus. Limes, if you're lucky. Lemons, if you're not. You take the slice and suck on it like it's treasure. The acid burns your tongue, but it feels like life. You hold it in your mouth until it's pulp, trying to trick your body into thinking it's safe. It isn't. Nothing is. Your teeth ache constantly. You run your tongue along your gums and feel the softness there. That's how it starts. Scurvy. One man lost 6 teeth in a single week. He laughed about it, until his jaw swelled and he couldn't eat. Then he didn't laugh anymore. The cook is a man called Pox. You don't ask how he got the name. It's obvious. His skin is a roadmap of old disease. He has one eye, no eyebrows, and a wheeze that sounds like a creaking hinge. He stirs everything with the same spoon and doesn't wash it. Ever. You watch him pull a dead rat from the barrel one morning. He doesn't flinch, just tosses it aside and keeps scooping. Later that day, you're served stew. You don't ask? Because if you ask, you lose your appetite. And you can't afford that. Even the smell of the galley changes with time. At first it's sharp and offensive. After a month it blends into the air like background noise. You stop noticing. That's the real danger. Not the rot you can see, but the kind that becomes normal. Everything smells wrong. Your sweat, the ship, your hammock, the crew. The sea tries to clean it, but the stink is in the wood now, in the sails, in your lungs. Sometimes you wonder how Calder can stand it. Never looks sick, never stumbles, never smells like the rest of you. Some say he drinks only from his own stores. Others say he's made a deal with something darker. No one says it out loud, not near the mast, not near the crew. Whispers spread. They always do. A rumour reaches you one night. Calder once slit a man's throat just for sneezing near his food. You laugh, then you stop, because it might be true. You don't want to test it. A month in, your stomach is no longer your own. It growls, complains, cramps, whines, but you stop listening. It's like a dog you've beaten too many times, still there, still angry, but quieter, resigned. You learn to eat faster than the rats. You learn to keep your portions hidden. You learn that if someone drops their bowl, you don't help them pick it up. That's weakness. That's an invitation. Gut rot doesn't just kill you, it makes you slow, makes you dizzy, makes you easy to replace. And out here, no one wants to be replaced. So you wipe your mouth, you clench your teeth, you swallow what you're given and pray it doesn't come back up. You're not just surviving now, you're decaying carefully, just like everyone else. They call the sails her wings, but that's not right. Wings are graceful, elegant, beautiful. The beast's sails are beasts of their own, wide, torn, patched like an old soldier's coat, and always hungry for wind. They don't lift, they pull, hard, like chains being yanked from the sky. You learn quickly that wind isn't your friend. Not out here, not in open water. Wind is a thing with teeth and moods. Some mornings it kisses the ship forward. Others, it roars down like a punishment. You hear it before you feel it. A rising moan in the rigging, then a sudden whip like something invisible just took a swing at the mast. There's a rhythm to handling the sails, but it's not gentle. It's violent. It takes 4 men to reef the main when the gusts are high. You climb, hands trembling, up rope ladders slick with rain or grease or worse. The higher you go, the more the ship disappears below you, until all you can see is ocean and white fabric flapping like a ghost trying to escape. The sail slaps you when you get close. Always. Doesn't matter how careful you are. It hits like a bully. You learn to lean into it. Wrap your legs, grab the lines. Not fast, tight, perfect. A loose sail is death. A tangled one, worse. One mistake and the canvas twists, snaps, and someone below gets whipped off the deck like a fly from a table. You've seen it happen. A man named Barty. Quick hands, good teeth, always smiling. Slipped during a squall. Caught by the corner of the topsail. Lifted clean off the yard and slammed against the rigging, neck snapped. He dropped like a sack of flour, no ceremony, no last words. They buried him at sea, wrapped in the very sail that killed him. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The wind doesn't care who it takes. The ropes, rigging, sheets, halyards, lines, they speak their own language. You learn to read them by feel. When one goes tight, you pull. When one starts to shake, you brace. There are over 30 ropes for every major sail, and if you forget which one's which, someone could die. You don't get second chances in the rigging. The masts groan under pressure, leaning into the wind like bones under strain. You start to think of the ship as alive, not just creaking but speaking, telling you when she's stressed, when she's happy, when she's about to break. The boatswain says a ship only sails when the wind allows it, but Calder, he sails when he wants. You've seen him order full sail in a storm. Others call it madness. He calls it making time. You remember that day clearly. The sky was split down the middle, half blue, half black. A storm chewing at the edge of the world. Most captains would have struck sail, turned off, waited it out. Not Calder. He walked out, coat flapping like a banner, and said only 3 words. All canvas up. No hesitation. The crew obeyed because fear obeys faster than sense. You climbed that day as the winds roared and rain hit like stones. The sails screamed. The beast tilted so hard you thought she might roll. Waves broke over the deck. Barrels came loose. A man was washed overboard. You never saw his body, but you saw Calder at the helm, hands steady, eyes locked ahead. No panic, no prayers, just control, like he wasn't riding the storm but commanding it. That night, soaked and shaking, you lay in your hammock and realise something important. The sea might be the queen out here, but Calder is her executioner, and the sails are his blades. Not everyone fears the wind. Some worship it. Bram the giant climbs to the tops like a mad priest. He hums when the breeze turns, smiles when the gusts pick up. He's missing 2 fingers from a rope-burned hand and says it was worth it. The wind gives, he says, and it takes, just like a god should. You don't know about gods, but you do know pain, and the wind delivers plenty of it. Sometimes it changes without warning. A shift so sharp it snaps the boom sideways and knocks men clean across the deck. One broke both legs, another lost an eye. That's why you never walk loose on the beast. Always a hand on a rope, always 1 foot planted. The wind plays favourites with the dead. One time you spot something strange. Bird feathers caught in the shrouds, fluttering like offerings. You don't know how they got there. No birds for miles. Bram says it's a sign. The wind brought 'em, message from the sky. You just nod. You don't argue with Bram, not since he broke a man's jaw for stepping on his shadow. The wind becomes your calendar. When it's still, the crew gets restless. When it's wild, the crew gets quiet. It's like the tension shifts with the air pressure. Fights are more common on calm days. Men start whispering mutiny when the sails droop. But when the wind howls, no one thinks of rebellion. They just hang on. You learn to trim sails by instinct. Angle the canvas like a blade. Catch speed. Cut current. Calder pushes the ship harder than she was ever meant to go. The hull groans like it's going to snap, but it never does. The beast was built to take it, just like you. After weeks at sea, your shoulders are roped with muscle. Your knuckles raw. Your feet hard as driftwood. But your balance is perfect now. You walk with the sway. You sleep with the creak. You dream in the rhythm of rope and wind. You're still not a true pirate. Not yet. But you're part of the beast now. Part of her sails. Part of the wind. And when she runs, you run with her. You hear them before you see them. The rats. Not the kind that squeak and scurry and scuttle away when you stamp your boot. These ones are bold, confident, well fed. They live in the lower deck, in the dark corners where the barrels drip and the planks sweat with moisture. They make nests in coils of rope under sacks of flour behind your gear if you leave it too long. Sometimes they crawl into hammocks while the crew sleeps, drawn by warmth, by sweat, by the scent of weakness. One night a man named Finley wakes up screaming. He feels something crawling on his chest. He swats, rolls, slams into the deck. The rat takes half his ear. Nobody helps. They just go back to sleep. You set traps. You use bits of biscuit, dried meat, even crumbs scraped off the edge of your shirt. Sometimes they work. Sometimes you just catch a tail, and the rat comes back meaner. Pox, the cook, says you shouldn't bother. We've been overrun since Havana, he mutters. Only way to beat 'em is to eat 'em. You think he's joking, until one morning there's something new in the stew. It's tender, stringy, gamey. You stop asking questions. Rations aren't just food, they're politics. They tell you your place on the ship. The first pick goes to Calder, then the mates, then the helmsman. By the time the bowl gets to you, what's left is meal. It's a test. Hardtack crawling with weevils. Salt pork so old it sweats grease in the cold. Beans with tiny white worms inside, squirming like they know something you don't. But hunger doesn't negotiate. You scrape the weevils off. You spit the worms out. You chew slowly and pretend it's enough. Some men hoard. You hear the rappers in the night. Fabric shifting, whispers of paper, tin, dried fruit tucked into boots, tobacco sewn into hats. If they're caught, the punishment isn't official. It doesn't come from Thorn. It comes from the crew. One hoarder gets tossed in the bilge, head first, held there till the rats scatter. Another wakes up shaved bald, eyebrows gone, blanket soaked in piss. Out here, stealing food is stealing life. Then there are the rumours. They grow in the dark like mould, quiet at first, then suddenly everywhere. You never know who starts them. No one ever admits it. But they spread like fire in dry wood. Some say Calder is ex-Navy. Others say he killed his own crew once, then stole the ship himself. You hear he doesn't sleep. That he keeps a book in his cabin filled with names of the dead, men he's killed or men he plans to. Bram says the ship's cursed. Beast was built from wood taken off a slave wreck, he growls. She remembers drowning. Low Jack says Calder talks to the sea when no one's looking. That he offers it blood. That the storms move for him. You don't believe any of it. Until you do. Because late one night, when the wind is dead and the sails hang like exhausted flags, you pass Calder's door and hear something, not talking, not muttering, just words, repeated, low, rhythmic, like a chant, like a deal being struck. You keep walking. You never mention it. Rumours are as dangerous as weapons. Start one and you better finish it. Hear one and you better pretend you didn't. But sometimes the rumours are just distractions. Like the one about a gold stash in the keel of the ship, hidden beneath the ballast. They say it's cursed, that every man who's gone looking for it met the same end, missing, silent, or thrown to the waves in a sack. You don't believe it, until a man disappears. Name was Rig. Quiet, clean, kept his gear tidy, good with rope. One night he's there, next morning nothing. His bunk is made, his knife is gone. His boots are still under the hammock. Gone. You ask Bram about it. He just shrugs. Rig got greedy. Then he points at the floorboards, and he smiles. Not like a joke, like a warning. The rats get bolder when the weather's cold. They come out in the light. You see them near the barrels, on the stairs. One chews through a man's boot while he's wearing it. The whole crew laughs until they see the blood, then no one laughs. You learn to sleep light, one eye half open, your gear tied to your waist. One boot still on, you learn to eat fast, to scan your bowl for movement, to shake your hammock before every nap. Rations grow thinner. The sea's been unkind, no catch for days. Water gets tighter. Thorn starts watching who drinks what. Grog's replaced with straight seawater, barely boiled. More men start coughing, teeth fall out, gums swell, some talk to themselves at night. But Calder stays steady. Always enough food for him, always dry clothes, always dry boots, always watching. One day you catch Thorn dumping barrels overboard, perfectly good grain, ruined with oil. He says nothing, you don't ask. But the crew sees it, and the whisper spreads like wildfire. Calder's planning something. No one knows what, but it smells like war. And the rats, they get louder, like they know it too. It starts like every other morning, sky grey, air wet, wind quiet but watchful. The crew moves slow, groggy from bad dreams and worse grog. The sun hasn't cracked the horizon yet, just a smear of pale light at the edge of the sea. Then someone shouts, short, urgent. You turn, and you see it. Fire. Far off, maybe a mile, maybe less. Just a flicker at first, then a curl of black smoke that rises slow and heavy like it's reluctant to leave the water. You squint. It's not the sun. It's not a trick. Something's burning. The horizon isn't clear anymore. It's lit. No one speaks for a moment. Not even Bram. Just the groan of the ship, the snap of canvas, the low slap of water against the hull. Then Calder appears. He doesn't run, doesn't bark, just stands at the bow, arms crossed behind him, coat flapping. His eyes squint toward the smoke like he's reading it. And then, with no ceremony, he says 2 words. Make ready. It's not a question, not a debate. It's law. Everything changes. Ropes snap taut. Men climb the rigging. Sails unfurl with a violent crack that sends birds fleeing from the mast. Cannons are uncovered. Powder barrels unsealed. cutlasses passed hand to hand like prayers before a storm. You don't ask who's burning. You don't ask why. You just follow orders, because there's something older than fear at work now, something colder. Opportunity. That's what fire means at sea. A ship burning is a ship wounded, crippled, slower, vulnerable. And for pirates, that's blood in the water. The beast groans as she turns. Her hull shifts, her belly leans. She knows what's coming. You brace as the sails catch a fresh gust, pulling you toward the smoke like a hook in the sky. The closer you get, the clearer it becomes. It's not just fire. It's chaos. The ship ahead is leaning, mast cracked, decks scattered with debris, sails half torn and flapping like flags of surrender. You see figures on deck, tiny at this distance but frantic, some waving, some running. One man dives overboard. You smell it now, burning pitch, scorched rope, flesh. Calder doesn't blink. Ready the hooks, Thorn growls, and prime the guns. You've never fired a cannon, but now isn't the time to admit that. The gunners show you fast, how to load, how to tamp, how to light the fuse. No room for fear, no time for mistakes. Your hands shake, but you hide it. Everyone does. As the beast pulls closer, you see more clearly. It's a merchant ship, Spanish, judging by the colours hanging from what's left of the mast. Not a navy vessel, not a warship. She was never meant to fight. She was meant to carry things that pirates like to take. That's all Calder needs to know. There's no mercy here, no warning shot, just a flash and a roar as the first broadside is loosed. The cannon next to you explodes forward with a deafening crack. Your ears ring. The deck shakes. The smoke hits your face and sticks in your throat like hot gravel. The other ship shudders. A splintered hole opens on her side like a fresh wound. Men scream. More shots. Another volley. You feel it more than you hear it. A rhythm of violence that shakes the marrow in your bones. Then comes the boarding order. Hooks are thrown, ropes lashed, grappling like beasts in the dark. Calder draws his blade. Not fancy, not curved, just long, clean and sharp enough to split bone. He doesn't yell, he doesn't lead. He just leaps, and the rest follow. You hesitate for a second, just one. Then Bram slams into you from behind, growling, "Move." You move. You cross on a plank slick with blood and seawater, smoke curling around you like fog from the underworld. The other ship moans beneath your feet. You land hard. A man swings at you. You duck. You don't know if you meant to or if instinct just saved you. You pull your blade, and you fight. You don't remember much of it, just flashes. A face snarling. A blade slicing past your ear. A sound of teeth breaking. A scream. A splash. A hand grabbing your shirt. Your elbow slamming down. Blood, maybe yours, maybe not. Then silence. The deck is soaked. Not just wet, slick. The kind of slick that never dries. Bodies lay scattered, some groaning, some still. The fire is out now, smothered by blood, by seawater, by death. Calder stands near the helm, blade still in hand, not a scratch on him. He nods once. The crew begins stripping the ship. It's a ritual, quick, precise. Open barrels, smash crates, haul silver, rum, tobacco, cloth, anything of value. And the bodies? Some are dumped, some are left. You don't ask which. You find a locket in a dead man's coat. You almost leave it. But something makes you pocket it. A habit forming already. You're not sure who you are anymore. Back on the beast, the mood changes. The silence is heavier. No songs, no laughter. Just the sound of boots on soaked wood and the creak of the ship pulling away from the wreck. You don't look back. The smoke follows you for miles. That night no one eats much. No one sleeps well. But Calder, he sleeps like a stone. And somewhere, just below the waves, the sea adds names to its list. You realise something deep and it sticks. The sea doesn't punish, it tempts. And when the horizon burns, it's not a warning. It's an invitation. You don't fear cannon fire until you hear it up close. Not just the boom, not the thunderclap you hear from the shore or in stories, but the whole thing. The hiss of the fuse, the flash, the way the deck jumps beneath your feet like the ship herself is flinching. Then there's the aftermath. Smoke that clings to your lungs like wet rags. Heat that rolls over the gun deck, curling the air into waves. The smell of sulphur, sweat and scorched wood. And then, if you're lucky, silence. But luck doesn't last long out here. The first real broadside you survive feels like someone's ripping the sky in half. You're bracing a powder barrel, watching Thorn's hand hover over the match cord, when suddenly, bang! Not your cannon, not your ship. The beast shudders. The other ship, a brigantine with French colours, fires again. You hear the whistle. That's the worst part. That high, sharp scream of a cannonball tearing air like it wants to split it open. Then the crash. Stern deck. Left side. Men scream. Something splinters. A man goes down. Bram yells. You duck without thinking, and a chunk of mast the size of a barrel lands where your head was. You don't remember moving. Only that you're still breathing. Cannon fire doesn't promise a fair fight. It doesn't care where you stand, what you believe, or who you pray to. It just takes. Fast. Loud. Final. You're handed a ramrod. You load powder. Wad. Ball. Tamp. Fast. Over and over. Thorn barks at you to move like you're already dead. The gunners beside you are shirtless, black with soot, their eyes bright with sweat and fear. One's missing part of an ear, another's got burns along his jaw. They don't talk, they just fire. The beast responds with their own broadside. 6 guns on the starboard. You feel it before you hear it. A rolling thunder under your feet. Like the bones of the ship are roaring. The recoil knocks a man overboard. No one even watches him fall. There's no time. You reload, fire, reload, fire. You catch glimpses of the other ship through the smoke. Her crew is scrambling, trying to angle for a better shot. Her cannons fire high, nervous gunners, rookie mistake. Ours fire low, called as orders. We aim for the belly, where it hurts, where the ship bleeds. Another shot, close this time. The cannonball crashes through the hull just feet from where you stand. Wood explodes in splinters. Something hot grazes your arm. You don't look. If it's bad, someone will tell you. Or they won't. The world shrinks in battle, becomes tasks, steps, patterns. Your life narrows to feet and seconds and the distance between your hands and the next fuse. And then, just like that, it stops. The brigantine veers off. Listing. Sails shredded. One mast down. She's still afloat, but she's running. Calder doesn't chase, not this time. Thorn calls for ceasefire. The gunners claps back, coughing, slick with sweat and blood and powder. The deck is hot, smouldering. You hear moaning below, the wounded, maybe dying. You finally look at your arm. The sleeve is torn, skin blackened, bleeding. Not deep. Not bad. You're lucky. Again. Later you help carry the dead below. 3 men, one with no head. Another crushed under a cannon that broke loose on the second volley. The last, Finley, died with his mouth open, still screaming. You cover them with tarps. You don't cry. No one does. Cannon fire teaches you that war at sea isn't about courage. It's about position. It's about powder. It's about who fires first and who fires straight. And it's about luck. Always. Luck. Thorn teaches you how to read damage. You follow him through the lower decks with a lantern, watching him tap along the walls, sniffing for smoke, listening for creaks. You patch holes with pitch and planks. You hammer nails into places you pray will hold. You try not to think about how thin the walls really are. just inches between life and salt water. One night, after patching a gun port scorched from the last skirmish, you ask Thorn how many battles he's seen. He doesn't answer, just looks at you, his eye twitching, jaw working a piece of tobacco. Finally, he says, "Too many to remember, and not enough to forget." You nod. That makes sense. Everything out here does, in its own cruel way. You don't fear cannon fire anymore. Not exactly. You respect it, like you respect the sea, and colder, and death. Because cannon fire doesn't make promises. It just keeps them. You notice it the second your boots hit the deck. The stain. Dark, nearly black. Smeared between the planks like a memory someone tried to wipe away, but couldn't. No matter how many buckets of seawater you throw, no matter how hard you scrub. Blood sticks to the boards. Not fresh, not this time, but recent. A few hours maybe less. Still wet at the edges. You know what that means? Someone died, and not in battle. There was no cannon fire last night, no boarding, no storm, just calm seas, low stars and silence. That means this wasn't war. It was something else. Something quieter. Something colder. Murder. Thorn's already there when you arrive, standing over the smear, arms crossed, jaw tight. No words, just that look. The one that says, "Keep your mouth shut unless you want it opened for you." Crew circles in slowly, one by one. Faces half awake, expressions blank. Everyone watching each other. No one saying a word. Then Calder walks out. He doesn't look at the blood. He doesn't need to. He already knows. He says one word. Name? Thorn doesn't hesitate. Darrow. You remember Darrow. Short, fast, a thief's fingers. He could tie any knot blindfolded, slept with a blade tucked into his boot. Always smiling. Gone now. No body, just blood. Maybe overboard. Maybe buried somewhere deeper in the ship. Maybe stuffed in a barrel and pushed into the sea while everyone else slept. Doesn't matter. He's gone. Calder walks once around the stain. Slow. Thoughtful. The way a man walks around a question he already knows the answer to. Then he stops. Looks up. "All of you," he says. "On deck. Nobody below. Not until I say." You wait. You watch. Calder doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't call for ropes or lashes or chains. He just paces. Then he speaks again. "One of you did this. One of you thought it'd be easy. Thought the dark would hide it. Thought I wouldn't know." He pauses. Looks around. "I always know." No one moves. Not a whisper. You hear waves against the hull, wind tugging at the sails. Somewhere far off a gull cries. But on deck, silence. Then Calder turns and points. At Bram. A ripple goes through the crew. Bram straightens, doesn't flinch, doesn't step back. "You think I killed him?" he growls. Calder doesn't answer. He just waits. Bram steps forward. 2 strides. Towering. Massive. He looks down at the captain, his hands flex once, twice. "If I'd killed him," Bram says, voice steady, "you'd have found the body." A few chuckles escape the crew, nervous, thin. Calder doesn't smile. "Maybe," he says, "or maybe you're slipping." Another silence. You think Calder's going to give the order, to have Bram chained, questioned, beaten, but he doesn't. He just walks away. The crew slowly returns to their tasks, quiet. Glances traded like blades in the dark. Trust erodes fast on a ship like this, like wood soaked in salt, warped, brittle, dangerous. You find yourself watching people differently after that, watching their hands, their eyes, where they walk, who they talk to, who they don't. Because blood on the boards means something changed. It means someone crossed a line and lived. That's dangerous. Later you find Bram alone near the forecastle, sharpening his knife. Slow, steady strokes. not looking up. You consider walking away, but something makes you stay. Did you do it? You ask low. He looks at you, calm, cold. No. Then a pause. But if I had, he'd have earned it. You don't ask what that means. You don't want to know. Another night passes. Another day. And then it happens again. Different stain, different spot. This time near the galley. Pox finds it before anyone else. Just a smear, like someone dragged something heavy, or someone bleeding tried to crawl. No name this time, no one missing. Just a warning. You start sleeping with a blade under your hammock, like everyone else. Trust eyes quick on the beast, faster than men do. Rumours spin again, wilder this time, that Darrow was caught stealing, that he owed someone money, that he found something in the bilge he wasn't supposed to find. You hear Calder had a man whipped once just for touching a sealed barrel. Maybe that's what Darrow did. Maybe not. Either way, the lesson's clear. Blood on the boards isn't an accident. It's a message. And everyone's listening. The crew changes. Faces harder. Voices quieter. Jokes shorter. You don't hear laughter now unless it sounds like a threat. And every task you do with one eye over your shoulder. No one's punished. No one's blamed. But Calder starts making rounds at night. You see him just before sleep, just after dreams, walking the deck in silence, gloved hands folded behind him, boots whispering against the wood, watching, measuring, waiting. Whatever happened to Darrow, Calder's not interested in justice. Only in balance, and balance is bought in blood. Out here, loyalty is nothing. Fear is everything. And when the boards go dark again, no one's surprised. You feel it before you see it. The pressure, heavy in the air, thick in your lungs. A stillness that isn't peace, it's warning. The sails sag. The ropes hang limp. The sea flattens out like a mirror waiting to break. Every sailor feels it. Not just the old ones. Everyone. Even the rats disappear. Then the sky darkens. Not like night. Not like dusk. Like judgment. Like the sky itself is about to fall. Thorn sees it first. He squints toward the east and mutters, "Here she comes." And suddenly it's chaos. Ropes are pulled, sails reefed, everything on deck tied down or thrown below. The barrels are lashed, the galley shut, lanterns snuffed, nothing left to catch wind or fire. Then Calder appears. He's not afraid. He doesn't even look surprised. Just stands there, eyes locked on the horizon, watching the storm crawl toward the ship like a predator, one hand on the rail, one hand behind his back. He says nothing. Because there's nothing to say. Storms don't negotiate. They don't care what you've earned, who you follow, how much treasure you carry. They don't want your story. They want your ship. The first gust hits like a punch. The beast groans. The mast creaks like it's going to snap. Rain follows, cold, hard, slanting sideways. It stings your skin, it blinds your eyes, it turns the deck into a river. You're called to the rigging, everyone is. It doesn't matter your rank. In a storm, every hand matters, every foot, every knot. You climb, slick with rain, soaked to the bone before you reach the first yardarm. The wind howls, not like an animal, like a god, angry, hungry. You grip the ropes, fingers numb, every movement is a gamble, every foothold a prayer. And the sails fight back. They snap and twist and pull like they're alive. The canvas slaps like a whip. The man next to you gets caught in a line, snapped around his leg, and lifted clean off the spar. He slams into the mast. You hear a crack. He doesn't scream. Just drops. No one stops. There's no time. You finish tying the reef knot. You scream for help, but the wind eats your voice. You climb down blind, guided by instinct and terror. Back on deck, the ship is tilting hard. Water floods the port side. Bram is shouting at the pump crew, trying to keep the bilge from swallowing the hold. Barrels are loose again. One crashes into a man's chest and pins him against the gunwale. He chokes once, then nothing. You step over his body on your way to the next rope. Lightning cuts the sky. White, violent, close. It hits the sea, and for a second you see everything, every face, every rope, every terrified eye. Then thunder. So loud your bones shake. Calder still hasn't moved. He stands at the helm, hand now gripping the wheel. His coat is plastered to him, his hair dripping, but his eyes are alive, bright, focused. He's not afraid. He's in control. You see him shout something to Thorn. Thorn nods. Orders spread down the line like fire. Adjust the course 2 points starboard. Head into the swell. The crew obeys, not because they agree, because Calder said so, and because there's no choice. The sea is heaving now, waves higher than the sails. The ship climbs each one like a dying man crawling uphill, then crashes down so hard your teeth clack. You lose your footing 3 times. The 4th, you nearly go overboard. A rope catches your arm. You don't know whose hand saved you. You don't look. No one is helping anyone now. Not unless it's survival. Not unless it's necessary. The beast groans again. The sound isn't wood this time. It's pain. It's fear. Storms test ships the way war tests men, not all pass. The foremast cracks at the base. A horrible, shuddering noise. Bram screams for the crew to brace. It goes. Falls in slow motion. Smashes into the deck with the weight of a dying titan. Sailcloth, rope timber scattered like bones. 2 more dead. Maybe 3. You can't tell anymore. Thorn's bleeding from the temple, barking orders with blood in his beard. Pox is missing. You last saw him near the galley. There's no time to mourn. You bail water. You tie lines. You brace beams. You pray, though you don't know who to. You think of the storm as a thing, alive, watching, laughing. And Calder, still at the wheel, still silent, still holding the beast like a leash he refuses to let go of. An hour passes, or maybe 10. Then, just as suddenly as it came, the storm starts to die. The wind fades, the rain softens, the waves shrink. The sun peeks out. You look around. Half the crew is down. The deck is wreckage, the mast is gone, the sails in tatters. But you're afloat. Somehow, you're afloat. Calder finally lets go of the wheel, walks down the steps, doesn't say a word, just walks the deck, looks at the dead, looks at the damage. Then, to no one in particular, he says, "She held," and then walks back to his cabin. You don't follow. You don't speak. You just sit on the wet boards soaked in salt, sweat and blood. And you understand something new. The sea doesn't have enemies, only survivors. And the storm? It wasn't trying to sink you. It was seeing if you were worth keeping. It starts as a whisper, soft, harmless, slippery. Just a word passed between 2 men over spilled rum. A shrug, a joke, a glance toward Calder's cabin that lingers half a second too long. You hear it first when you're half asleep, hammock swaying, heart still echoing from the storm. A voice you can't place says he's not invincible, then silence, then a cough, then nothing. But once mutiny whispers, it never stops. It grows, it spreads, it waits. The beast is wounded now, her foremast gone, 2 sails useless, half the rigging snapped. The deck still slick from the storm, the wood swollen from the sea. The ship moves slower, lower and heavier. So does the crew. They walk differently now, shoulders hunched, jaws tight, the lines on their faces deeper. Fewer jokes, fewer songs. Eyes dart to the shadows more than the horizon. You feel it in your chest before you see it anywhere else. The tension, like a blade held just beneath the ribs, close enough to bleed but not yet pressed. No one says the word mutiny out loud. That would be suicide. but it's in the air, in the way Thorn double-checks every musket, in the way Bram sharpens his blade twice a day, and how the men start carrying weapons even when they are not on duty. One morning you wake to find a dagger under your hammock that wasn't yours. No note, no message, just a tool. Or a suggestion. You don't ask who left it. Whispers turn to warnings. Calder's gone mad. He's hoarding supplies. There's a second logbook in his quarters. Says we're not heading for Tortuga. He's taking us into cursed waters. He's feeding the storm. Some of it's nonsense. Most of it, probably. But truth doesn't matter once fear takes root. You hear that Calder keeps gold hidden in the keel, that he's made deals with devils, with sea spirits, with things older than land. One night someone swears they saw him writing names in blood. Another claims to have peeked in his cabin and seen maps that don't make sense. No lands, no coasts, just shapes, symbols, circles inside circles. Even Thorn looks uneasy now. He still follows orders, still barks and growls, but something's changed behind his eyes. You catch him staring at Calder a little too long, his hand drifting to his cutlass when there's no reason. There are two kinds of mutiny at sea. The loud kind, steel and gunfire, and the quiet kind, slipping, pulling, unravelling from the inside. This one's the second, so far, until a body appears, middle of the night. No storm this time. Just calm water. A man named Tiller, young, strong, loyal, throat slit. Found at the base of the mast, curled like a question mark. No sign of struggle. No noise heard. Just blood soaking into the deck again. Same spot where Darrow's blood had dried weeks before. Thorn finds the body. Doesn't call Calder right away. Instead, he brings a few men together. Bram among them. You're nearby, coiling rope, pretending not to listen. But you hear it. Whispers. This has to end. No names, no plan. Not yet, but something's moving. Calder arrives an hour later, looks at the body, stares at it too long, then looks at the sky, as if trying to read the stars for answers. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't accuse anyone. He just orders the deck scrubbed. No ceremony, no words for the dead, not even a burial. You can feel it crack right then. The crew, the command, the balance. Men exchange looks when Calder turns his back. Blades hang a little lower, a little looser. Fingers twitch near hilts. And you start sleeping with your knife inside your shirt. Because now it's not just the sea trying to kill you, it's everyone. One night you're woken by footsteps. Quiet, careful. You pretend to stay asleep. You grip your knife. The steps pass. You never see the face. But you hear a whisper. Soon. The next day Calder speaks to the crew. First time since the storm. He doesn't pace, doesn't raise his voice. Just stands at the helm and says, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying when you think I'm not listening. So listen now. There will be no mutiny. Not on my ship. Not while I breathe. If you think otherwise, try me. Then he walks away. But no one moves. No cheers, no murmurs. Just the sound of the sails. That's when you know the silence is more dangerous than the threats. That night you find a small pouch under your blanket. Inside, flint. Black powder, a map. A mark drawn not far from where Calder sleeps. A test. A trap. An invitation. You leave it where it is. Because whatever side you choose, you're already in danger. Mutiny doesn't happen in one moment. It happens like rot. Spreading. Quiet. Until everything falls. And when it does, the sea won't care who wins. The lash is older than the ship. Older than the sea. It's not just rope and knots. It's order. It's history. It's a memory carved into the back of men who forget where they stand. You see it for the first time on the quarterdeck. Not the whip, They've all seen the whip. It hangs in plain sight, coiled like a sleeping serpent beside the mast. But the moment you see it used, that's when it becomes real. A man named Hob, caught stealing gunpowder. Not to sell. Not to trade. To blow the lock on the storeroom, he wanted rum. He's dragged forward at dawn, no trial, no speech. Thorne reads the charges like a shopping list. Then the shirt comes off. Hobbs already crying before the first strike. No one mocks him. No one dares. 'Cause you know what's coming. The lash isn't just about pain. It's about message. It's about balance. 12 strikes. That's the rule. 12 for theft. 24 for mutiny. Death for desertion. Everyone knows it. No one questions it. The cat o' nine tails isn't a whip in the way you'd imagine. It's a beast. 9 leather tongues tipped with knots, glass, wire. Each strike isn't a line, it's a dozen. Each crack isn't a sound, it's a sentence. The first hit knocks the wind out of Hob. The second splits skin. By the fourth, the deck is slick with his blood. By the ninth, he's not screaming anymore. Just breathing shallow, just holding on. You watch. You have to. That's the rule too. Every man on board watches. Even Calder, standing at the helm, silent, watching like a judge. Not cold, not cruel, just distant, as if it has nothing to do with him. When it's over, Hobbs' body is dragged away, not below, not to a bunk, to the bilge, where the rats live. He'll sleep there until his wounds close or his breathing stops. You ask someone later what happened to the last man who took more than 12. The answer is simple. No one ever does. That day, you learn what justice looks like on a pirate ship. It's not blind. It's not fair. It's functional. And the lash isn't punishment. It's preservation. The next time someone argues during meal ration, the argument dies quickly. No one wants to test the law again. You'd think it would make the crew quieter, more obedient. But it doesn't. It makes them careful, calculating. The rules aren't written anywhere. They're passed through scars, through bruises, through muttered warnings over shared cigarettes and sleepless nights. Don't touch the powder. Don't speak out during watch. Don't question an order after dusk. And never, ever draw steel unless you mean to kill. That last one is sacred. You learn that the hard way. A man named Wren pulls a knife during a dice game. He doesn't stab, doesn't even threaten, just waves it, joking. Maybe trying to scare a few coins out of the pot. Thorne is on him in seconds. No warning, no words. Just a blow to the throat, then a boot, then silence. Wren's body is gone by morning. No one asks. The lesson. Out here, survival isn't about strength. It's about understanding the rules and obeying them. Not because you believe in them, but because they keep the ship from tearing itself apart. One evening you hear Calder explain it to Thorne. His voice is low, like a storm on the horizon. We don't have a kingdom, Thorne. We don't have a country. We have this wood, this crew, and the line between chaos and order. The lash is the line. And Thorne nods, because he knows. There's a myth among the crew that Calder was lashed once, long ago, before the beast, before he wore gloves and whispered commands that made storms blink. They say he took 24, and never made a sound. You ask Bram once if it's true. He stares at you, then pulls his shirt down, shows you his own back, a network of scars. Does it matter? He walks away before you answer. The lash becomes more than just a tool. It becomes a threat, a ghost, a reminder that the sea isn't the only thing that'll break your body. And over time, you start to understand something deeper. The lash doesn't keep you afraid. It keeps you honest. Because when the planks run red, and the crew forgets who they are, and the line between man and monster fades, Sometimes pain is the only thing that keeps the rules standing. It doesn't come with screams. Not at first. Not like a cannonball to the gut or a blade across the throat. Scurvy is quieter. Slower. It creeps up on you with a smile. Because it waits. Waits for the sun. Waits for calm seas. Waits for the days when the crew thinks they've finally caught a break. And that's when it strikes. You notice it in the gums first. Not your own, someone else's. Man across from you at mess. He bites into salt pork and winces. A little blood on the meat. A little too much to ignore. His lips are cracked, but everyone's lips are cracked. The difference is in the way he moves. Slow, stiff. Not sore from work, sore from inside. Like his body's turning against itself. You ask Low Jack about it, he shrugs. Scurvy, he says. It's in all of us, some just slower to rot. You laugh, but it sticks. The next day the man's gone, not dead, just below, sick. Too sick to stand. His teeth are loose, his breath smells like rust. Thorn orders a lemon brought from stores. Too late. He dies 2 days later. You help carry his body up. Light. Soft. Like he's already halfway gone. They don't bother wrapping him, just slide him over the rail and let the sea decide. No words. Not anymore. And that's when you start to feel it too. Your gums itch, your legs cramp. You stand too fast and the world spins. You taste blood when you chew. Pox is gone, died in the storm. That means no cook, no citrus, no plan. Calder gives no orders about it. Not publicly, but you hear whispers that he's rationing fruit now, saving it, hoarding it for the mates, for himself. You don't see lemons for weeks, and every day another man limps, another one coughs up red, another falls asleep on deck and doesn't wake up. Scurvy doesn't kill quick. It kills confidence, morale, sanity. You start noticing the changes, little things. No one sings anymore. Games go unplayed, cards gather dust. The men don't gamble, they sit in silence, stare at the sea like it owes them answers. One man starts picking at his skin, says bugs live there. You try to calm him, he bites your arm. They throw him over. A mercy. The next week, Bram collapses mid-haul. Not a small man, not a weak man, just used up. Thorn helps him up. Bram laughs. It sounds hollow. Nothing left, he says. Inside, all gone. You see his gums the next day, black at the edges. His hands shake when he eats. You know he won't last. And that's when Calder steps in. Finally. He orders the fruit brought up. Lemons, limes, rotten at the edges but usable. He walks the deck with Thorn, handing them out like coins to beggars. He doesn't speak, just offers the slice. One per man, no more. It's enough to stop the deaths, not enough to reverse the rot. You suck yours slowly, eyes closed. It burns, hurts. But it's the best pain you've ever felt, like life clawing its way back. Still, it changes nothing. Because you know now that Calder waited, watched, let the weak fall off. He didn't save them, he calculated. You don't know if that makes him cruel or just honest. On land, sickness is tragedy. Here, it's math. After that, the silence thickens. No one speaks of the dead. No one speaks of what's growing inside their gums. But you feel it. In your legs. In your teeth. In your sleep. Scurvy becomes a second shadow. A reminder that even in calm seas under blue skies with the wind in your favour, you're still dying. Just slower. And that's the cruelest part. Scurvy doesn't come in a storm, it comes in sunshine. Night on the open sea isn't quiet. It just pretends to be. There's no moon tonight, no stars, just the dark, pure, full, endless. It wraps around the ship like a shroud, and you learn quickly that the worst things don't come in storms. They come in silence. You're on watch. That means 4 hours standing at the bow or pacing the quarterdeck, alone, eyes straining into nothing, ears sharp for sounds you're not even sure are real. The waves whisper, the ropes creak, the hull breathes. And every few minutes you feel it again, that pressure in your chest, like the dark is watching you back. You're not the only one who feels it. Every man who takes night watch returns slower, quieter, eyes a little wider, like they saw something they didn't understand, something they weren't supposed to. Some talk to themselves, some don't come back. A man named Elric took first watch 3 nights ago, stern rail, calm sea, not a cloud in the sky, gone by morning, no blood, no note, no splash heard, just gone. Thorn shrugged. Bram muttered a prayer. Calder didn't blink. You ask if he jumped. Thorn answers without looking at you. Men don't jump without noise. That's when the real fear sets in. It's not just the sea that takes. It's the dark. The silence becomes the enemy. Your own footsteps sound like betrayal, your own breath like a warning. You hear things, low hums, echoes, voices from below that shouldn't be there. One night you swear you hear your name, spoken slow, from the water. You freeze, you grip the rail so tight your knuckles split. There's nothing there, but the water keeps moving, like it knows something you don't. You stop looking over the edge after that. The ship changes at night. She moves differently, groans differently. You swear the boards shift under your feet like something underneath is breathing. Bram calls it the deep pulse. Says it only happens on nights with no stars. Says he heard it back when he sailed near the Horn on a different ship. A cursed one. That ship went down. He didn't. He never explains how. You try to stay awake during your shift. You do. But the rocking, the darkness, the hours, they press down on you, make you heavy, make you slow. You catch yourself nodding. Just once. And Thorn's voice snaps out from the shadows. Oh, fall asleep on watch again, and I'll feed you to the wake. You don't ask what that means, but you don't nod again. The older sailors have rituals, tricks. One ties a copper coin into his sleeve, lets it press against his skin to keep him alert. Another chews on dried pepper root, burns the mouth, keeps the eyes open. A third pricks his palm with a needle every 15 minutes. You try them all. Nothing works like fear, and you're learning. Every shadow might be a man. Every creak might be the hull giving up. Every wave might be the one that takes you. Sometimes you think the beast herself is testing you, watching through her sails, judging your worth by how long you can stand alone in the dark. There are stories too. Every ship has them. The ghost boy who walks the rigging upside down. A woman in white who floats just off the port side, singing in a voice no man survives hearing. A red light that moves through the hold, never flickering, never cast by any hand. You don't believe them. Not really. But you don't look too hard either. Calder never takes night watch. Not anymore. They say he used to. Back when the beast first sailed. Back before his hands went gloved and his voice went cold. But one night, something happened. No one knows what. Only that after that night he never took a watch again, and the helmsman who stood beside him vanished. You try not to think about it. You just watch. Listen. Wait. Because night watch isn't about spotting danger. It's about surviving silence. And silence out here is never empty. The sea has stories, not the kind written in books, not the kind told to children with warm endings and gentle lessons. No, these stories are older. darker. Spoken low, over a cracked mug of grog or between shifts on night watch, when the stars vanish and no one's sure if what they're hearing is real. They're not told for comfort. They're told to remind you what's out there, and what's waiting. The first one you hear is about a ship with black sails. No flag, no name, no crew. Just a shadow that moves with the current but against the wind, appears on the edge of your vision and disappears when you blink. Bram tells it while patching a length of sailcloth, his eyes locked on the thread like he's afraid to look up. They say it doesn't make a sound, he mutters. Not a wave, not a creak, just glides, closer every time. You laugh, or try to, but he doesn't. They say if you see it 3 times, you die before land. You ask what happens if you see it once. He shrugs. Then you wait. You hear more over time. A ship that sails upside down with barnacles growing from her masts and sails made of skin. A ghost crew whose faces are blank, eyes hollow, voices dry as dust. They don't attack. They just drift beside you, match your speed, watch, until something goes wrong on your own ship. Then they vanish, leaving wreckage behind. Another tale is older still. A man tells it while sharpening his blade under the stars. The blade is chipped, like it's been used on bone. He says there's an island that only appears in the fog. No map shows it. No compass points to it. But every ship that passes through a certain stretch of water hears drums, sees lights flickering in the mist. Some chase them, some flee, none return. It's not land, he says. It's something else pretending. You ask if Calder believes any of this. The man looks at you, then away. Calder doesn't need to believe. He's seen worse. And you don't doubt it. Because one night it happens. You're on the stern rail, watch duty, calm sea, clear sky. Then it shifts. No wind, no waves, just a dead still. The beast slows like she's moving through honey. The sails hang, the ropes sag. You feel it in your teeth before you see it. Then, fog. Not natural, not slow, just there. All at once. Thick, heavy. Coiling up from the sea like breath from some enormous mouth. You can't see 10 feet ahead. Then Thorn shouts, "Starboard." You turn, and there it is. A ship. Close. Too close. Silent. It doesn't move like a real vessel, no tilt, no sway. It floats. Unnatural. Its sails are full, but there's no wind. Its flag hangs limp, but the air's still. No name. No sound. No crew visible. You blink. It's closer. You hear a bell. Single chime. Low. Hollow. Off-key. The beast turns hard, too hard. The tiller screams. The hull groans. You're thrown against the rail. Then, nothing. The fog lifts. The ship is gone. Just open sea again. Everyone saw it. No one says a word. Even Calder looks different. Not afraid, but cautious. Like he's been reminded of something he'd rather forget. The next morning, a man is missing. Not killed, not overboard, just gone. His boots still tied at the base of the mast. His knife still sheathed. His hammock still swinging. You never say his name again. After that, the stories grow thicker. They cling to the crew like salt. Every strange light becomes a signal. Every shadow in the water becomes a hand. Every creak, every moan, every change in the current. It all becomes part of something older than the beast. And Calder says nothing. Because even if he doesn't speak the stories, he respects them. You learn that's the real lesson out here. Not every threat can be fought. Some things you don't fire cannonballs at. Some things you don't outsail. Some things you just endure. Until they decide to leave you be. That's the truth of the sea. You fear storms. You fight men. But legends, You survive those by silence. You see her before anyone else. First it's just a shape on the horizon, too straight to be natural, too still to be cloud. You blink, wipe the salt from your eyes, and there she is again. Tall, heavy, perfectly balanced. A silhouette of splendour, a Spanish galleon. Your heart skips, then races. These aren't merchant sloops or drifting wrecks. Galleons are the real monsters of the sea. Floating fortresses bristling with cannon, bloated with gold, soaked in blood. They don't travel light, they don't travel alone, and they don't stop unless something makes them. You call it out. Ship on the east. Within seconds the quarterdeck is chaos. Thorn's already at the glass, Bram's loading shot. The gunners are waking, Calder appears as if the wind carried him to the rail. No surprise on his face, no fear, just something cold, mathematical. The galleon gets closer. You see her colours now, bright red, gold cross, white sails touched with crimson. She's beautiful, impossibly tall, triple-decked with 2 rows of cannon on each side and a flag so large it drags against her own rigging. She cuts through the water like she owns it. Maybe she does. She's too big, someone mutters. Calder hears it. He doesn't flinch. Everything is too big, he says, until it's sinking. He gives orders. Fast. Precise. Guns run out. Powder readied. The helmsman leans the beast into a long, slow arc, getting wind, angling for advantage. But the galleon doesn't react. She doesn't turn. Doesn't signal. Just keeps coming. And that's when it gets strange. She's not moving right, says Thorn. He's right. The wind is strong, but her sails barely billow. The water around her barely stirs. She's gliding, like ice across polished glass. Then you see her crew. Just shapes at first. Too still, too clean. Then one moves. Lifts a spyglass. Looks directly at you. For a second you swear your body stops working. Not out of fear, out of something deeper, instinct. The man doesn't blink, doesn't shift, just watches. You feel it in your teeth. She's hunting us, Bram mutters. No, says Calder, she's waiting. But waiting for what? The 2 ships drift closer, a slow game of chicken. No cannon fired, no signals, no shouts. Then the galleon shifts. Just slightly. She's turning. Not to run. To broadside. She's preparing to fight. Starboard guns loaded? Calder asks. Thorn nods. Hold, Calder says. The crew grips the rail, eyes wide, teeth clenched. No one breathes. Hold. You see gun ports opening on the galleon. Row after row of black mouths yawning open. Hungry, patient. The beast lists with the current. Closer, 30 yards, maybe less. Then a flash. One cannon. From their side. But it doesn't fire. It explodes. A misfire. The blast cracks like lightning, bursting smoke and flame from their midship. You see men thrown. A mast shakes. They're vulnerable. Now, Calder says. The beast's broadside roars like a waking god. 6 guns fire as one. The deck shudders. Smoke explodes outward like a wall. You lose sight of the galleon for 3 long seconds. Then the haze clears. You've hit her. Dead centre. Her middle deck sags. Wood shattered. Her return fire comes, wild, desperate. But it sails high, cracking nothing but air. You're ordered to reload, fast. With shaking hands you slam powder, wad, ball. You feel your lungs seize with smoke. Another volley. More smoke, more fire. The galleon wobbles. Then a sound. Not a scream, not a shout. A horn. Long, droning, low like the sea moaning in its sleep. What the hell is that? Someone yells. No one answers. But Calder flinches. The galleon begins to turn, not flee, retreat. Her crew scrambling now, still no return signal, still no proper response, just that sound. that long, low, broken horn that doesn't stop. You expect Calder to order suit. He doesn't. He watches, then says, "No chase, let her go." Thorn hesitates. "She's bleeding, we could finish her." Calder shakes his head. "She's not ours to finish." The beast slows. The galleon limps away, trailing smoke and shadow. Her sails hang crooked. Her wake cuts like a scar. You stare at her until she vanishes into the mist. Then Bram mutters, "That wasn't just a galleon." You ask him what he means, but he just walks away. The crew goes quiet. Later that night, someone finds something strange on the deck. A piece of red cloth, soaked in seawater. No one saw it fall. No one saw who dropped it. It's stiff with salt, the same colour as the galleon's flag. No one touches it. They just stare. And you realise some ships carry treasure. Some carry fear. And some, like that Spanish galleon, carry something else. There's no warning, no horn, no sails on the horizon, just a shout from the crow's nest. "Ship! Port side! Close!" And suddenly everything is motion. Calder's on deck in seconds. No boots, no coat, just steel in both hands, and that look on his face again, the one that says he already knows how this ends. The ship is close. Too close. You scramble up the rigging and there it is, low and fast, hull black with smoke, sails grey and torn like battlefield flags. She's smaller than the beast, faster. No colours, no country. Pirates. Same as you. But different. Because these ones, they're not after gold. They're after your ship. You don't know who fired first. Could have been them. Could have been us. Either way, the air explodes. Cannons roar, the sea churns, splinters fly like wasps through the smoke. The ships close in, wood groaning, beams creaking as if the ocean itself doesn't want this fight to happen. Then, impact. The hulls kiss, hard. Grappling hooks fly through the air, some miss, some don't, lines snake over the rail, and just like that the battle leaves the cannons behind. Now it's steel over salt water. They come in howling, boots slamming onto the deck, swords raised, faces smeared with ashen paint. Not uniforms. Tattoos, bone necklaces, eyes like they've seen hell and taken notes. First one comes at you with an axe. You don't think. You just duck. Your blade finds his side, fast, low, instinct. You feel it go in. He falls before you can tell yourself it's real. And then, there's no time. Everywhere, steel. Steel on wood, steel on bone, steel on steel. The air smells like blood and powder and fear. You hear Bram yelling behind you, deep and wild like thunder underfoot. Thorn is at the mast, bleeding from the scalp, sword in one hand, pistol in the other. He fires point blank. Doesn't wait to watch the man fall. You lose track of Calder. Then you see him, spinning like smoke, cutting through the borders like water. His gloves are off. First time you've seen his bare hands, they're covered in scars, not fresh ones, old, deep, ritual. He moves like he's done this before, too many times, like it's not even fighting, it's remembering. You're not winning. You're holding. Barely. The beast groans again. Another broadside. A cannon shot from their ship punches through the lower deck. The blast lifts part of the galley clean off. Fire starts. Smoke rolls upward like the ship's exhaling death. Calder sees it. "Pull them in," he shouts. "If they want to be close, bring them closer." He's not retreating. He's pulling them into the trap. Hooks are reversed. Lines reeled. The two ships lurch tighter until there's no gap between decks. And then you see it. What Calder planned. Barrels. Powder. Already planted. Already lit. You don't ask who did it. You just run. Their ship erupts. Not a full blast, just enough. Fire. Smoke. A shockwave of confusion. Screams. And that's when you strike. The beast's crew surges forward like wolves off the leash. You follow, blade low, breath burning, legs heavy. You board them. Their deck is smaller, tighter, less organised. Chaos works against them now. You cut through smoke and steel and panic. Men fall, some jump. One tries to run and gets shot in the back by his own. You don't feel the kills. Only the movement. Only the momentum. Then Hulda's voice again. Hold. Everything stops. The survivors drop weapons, hands raised, knees bent. They beg. Calder doesn't kill them. He doesn't speak to them. Just turns to Thorn and says, Reem, strip the ship, then sink her. You don't question it. You haul crates, powder, charts, a compass, a strange black stone one of the enemy had tied around his neck. You take it. You don't ask why. When you're done, you watch as the last man is shoved into a rowboat and sent drifting. Then Bram lights the fuse. Their ship goes down screaming. Black wood, red flame, then water. Just water. You breathe. You bleed. You're alive. But something's changed. You've boarded ships before. But this wasn't boarding. This was something else. It was defence. It was strategy. It was Calder reminding everyone, crew, gods, see that the beast is his. And no one takes what's his. You return to your hammock that night, hands still shaking, shirt still damp with blood that isn't yours. And you realise something new. There's no such thing as honour at sea. Only opportunity. And who grabs the rope first? You never get used to it. The noise, the smell, the feel of death when it clings to your skin. Smoke, screams, and salt spray. That's the holy trinity of battle at sea. When they hit you all at once, you don't process them separately, they mix. They become one overwhelming wave, and it doesn't crash, it consumes. It starts with fire, always does. Not the roaring kind, the creeping kind, the kind that starts in a crack or under a barrel. You smell it first. Wood and pitch cooking. Your body tenses before your brain catches up. By the time the flames are visible, they've already made decisions you can't undo. That's what happened the night after the boarding. You thought the fight was over. You were wrong. The enemy ship was gone, but its ghost stayed. Powder spilled during the transfer. A fuse lit, maybe by accident, maybe not. Smoke rises from the hold. Then the shouts begin. Fire. Below deck. Move. You rush to the steps and are hit by heat so thick it feels like a wall trying to push you back. The air is black, the smoke alive. You can't see 5 feet ahead. You cover your mouth and descend. The flames lick along the beams, slow but determined, like fingers dragging across skin. Buckets are passed, water sloshed, boots pounding on the boards. The crew becomes one animal. No ranks, no names, just instinct. You see Bram haul a barrel with his bare hands, hurling it overboard before it cooks off. His palms are blistered before it hits the water. Thorn's shouting orders you can barely hear over the coughing over the roar. His face is wet with sweat and smoke, one eye nearly swollen shut. And then someone screams. Not from fire. From something worse. A man named Drex. Young. Fast. Too fast. He'd run into the smoke before anyone else. Now he runs back out of it, arms flailing, eyes white. His shirt is on fire. His skin peeling. You tackle him, roll him on the deck, smother the flame with canvas. He's still screaming. His voice doesn't sound human anymore. It's a warning, not a call for help. You look up and realise there are more of them. Screams, one after another. Not all from burns, some from the sea. Because as the fire blazes and the smoke blinds, the beast drifts. The helm unmanned, the sails loose. And the ocean is never still. Waves crash over the port rail, high and cold, buckets are swept away, so is a man. You don't see who, just hear the splash, and nothing after. Rain starts, light at first, then harder. It hisses on the flames but doesn't kill them, just mixes the smoke with steam. Now you can't see, can't breathe, can't think. You slip on blood, yours, maybe someone else's, and slam into the mast. For a second everything goes quiet. The world narrows to one sound. Breathing, ragged, yours. Then Calder's voice cuts through it all. Douse it or abandon her. It's not panic, it's clarity. A knife through confusion. You move. Grab a line. Help drag a tarp over the nearest hatch. Someone else pours vinegar. Another man brings sand from the ballast. It's madness, but it's coordinated. By the time the flames die, the deck looks like it fought a war without leaving port. Half the crew is burned, the rest are coughing, vomiting, shaking. And Calder? Still standing. Blackened gloves, ash on his coat, eyes scanning the deck like he's not just counting survivors, he's counting liabilities. Drex doesn't make it. Neither does Cars. One burned, one drowned. He helped drag the bodies to the rail. No ceremony, just a nod from Thorn. They hit the water with 2 dull splashes. The crew gathers in silence. Calder walks through the smoke and rain, slowly, like a man counting steps. No more accidents, he says. No more mistakes. No one argues. The days that follow are quiet. Too quiet. The beast is charred. Her sails patched with mismatched cloth. The deck stained where blood and brine dried together. Tools rusted. Rations spoiled. Water barrels tainted by soot. You clean. You repair. You work until your hands split. Because what else can you do? You still hear the screams, not always in sleep. Sometimes in broad daylight when the waves are too calm. When the wind stops. That's when you remember. It's not the storm that haunts you. It's the aftermath. The sound of boots slipping on blood. The sight of a man's skin sliding from his hand like old leather. The sting of salt water in open wounds. You never forget those. Not even when the deck's clean again. Not even when the smoke's gone. Because the beast remembers. And so do you. You thought you knew what treasure was. Gold. Silver. Coins stamped with kings' faces you'll never meet. Chests bound in iron heavy with stolen history. That's the story. The lie. The bedtime version of piracy. But out here, in the real sea, where your ribs show through your shirt and the air smells like old blood and wet rope treasure isn't gold, it's breath. A single unbroken breath. After battle. After fire. After sickness. After watching a man's skull split open beside you. Treasure is the moment when you wake up and your lungs work. When no blade is pressed to your throat. When the sky is just sky and not the mouth of hell. That's wealth. Everything else is fiction. You realise this when Calder calls for the hold to be opened. He says they've been chasing it for weeks, some merchant route off Cartagena, a galleon heavy with coin and spice. They struck it, took it, sank it, all within a half hour. Minimal blood, perfect hit. And now the crates are brought up. Boxes wrapped in tar cloth. Heavy. Clean. You watch as Thorn cracks one open. Silver. Plates, coins, goblets. Rosary beads tangled like snakes. The crew stares. Not in awe, not really. Just quiet. Because gold looks different when your hands are blistered. When half your crew's in the grave. When your hammock still smells like smoke. One man laughs. Tries to lift a sack of coin over his shoulder. Drops it. Hurts his knee. No one helps him up. Another man reaches into the chest and just holds a piece. Stares at it. Then puts it back. No celebration. No cheer. just exhaustion. Because the cost? Too high. You were there. You saw what was lost for that silver. Bram's leg torn in the boarding. Drex burned alive. Pox buried with the storm. The real treasure was making it out. Calder doesn't touch the coin. He doesn't even glance at it. He walks the deck, hands behind his back, eyes always on the crew. Watching, weighing, measuring what's left. You ask Thorn what the plan is. Trade, he says. Port soon. Supplies, water, wood, maybe a dock for repairs. You don't ask where. You just nod. Because now you're not thinking about gold. You're thinking about fresh water. About bread that isn't salted or crawling. About sleep without screaming. You're thinking about breath. About living long enough to see another day. That's the shift no one warns you about. The longer you live, the less value treasure holds. You'd trade a chest of silver for a dry blanket. A sack of gold for 2 more fingers. A single coin for 1 more man not tossed into the sea. There are no songs about that. No ballads. No stories where the hero wins by surviving quietly. But out here, it's the only kind of victory there is. You'll remember a moment, weeks ago now, when you caught a breath of wind that didn't smell like rot, just salt, clean, cold, real. It lasted a second, but it felt like everything. That was treasure. That's what you carry in the cracks between horrors. The smallest, most fragile things. The shared laugh over stale grog. The warmth of the sun after a cold watch. The absence of pain for one night. You're rich in those. You've earned every one. Calder addresses the crew after the haul. Keep your hands off what's not yours, he says. The ship eats thieves faster than kings. No one laughs, no one questions. You all know he's not talking about coin. He's talking about life. About how fragile it is. How easily it's stolen. You spend that night under the stars, eyes open, blade near your hand, not guarding silver, not gold. Just yourself. Because when the world's gone dark and the sea wants more bodies and the storm clouds roll in again, treasure isn't what you bury. It's what you keep breathing for. They told you pirates were free. That's why you signed on. No masters. No kings. No taxes. No chains. Just the open sea, the open sky, and a ship that answered to no one but wind and will. They didn't tell you what it costs. Freedom, out here, has a price. And it's not gold. It's hunger. It's fear. It's blood in the water and scars on your back and the kind of silence that keeps you awake long after the watch bell's rung. You've been on the beast long enough to know now. You're not free. You're owned. By the ship. By the sea. By the choices you made and the ones you didn't. You thought freedom was choosing your fate. It isn't. It's carrying it. And you carry it every day. In your knees when you stand too fast. In your fingers when they won't grip the rope right. In your dreams when the deck creaks louder than it should. The crew doesn't speak of freedom anymore. Not the way they used to. They speak of port, of land, of maybe getting out, or maybe one more haul and done. But no one means it. Because once you've tasted this life, truly tasted it, you learn the truth. Freedom's not a destination. It's the gap between pain and survival. And that gap's getting smaller. You see it in the way Thorn walks now, slower, stiffer, in Bram's cough, in the younger ones still pretending they haven't changed, still wearing their boots loose and their blades clean. You saw it last week when a man named Hollis tried to desert at port, slipped down the gangway during loading, thought he could vanish into the crowd. Calder caught him before he hit the dock, didn't beat him, didn't yell. Just walked him to the edge of the ship, looked him in the eye and said, "This is your freedom." Then pushed him. No splash. Just a thud. Rocks below. Hollis didn't scream. Freedom's a funny word when you're staring down at broken bones and a captain who doesn't blink. You've thought about it too. Leaving. Running. Finding some port that doesn't know your name and sinking into the crowd with what coin you've got tucked in your belt. But then what? You'd never sleep right again. You'd hear the creak of rope in the rafters. You'd flinch every time the wind hit just right. You're not a man anymore. You're a piece of the beast. You chose this. Or maybe it chose you. You talk to Bram one night. Ask him, quietly, if he remembers his old life. He doesn't look at you. I remember leaving it, that's enough. You don't ask again, because deep down you understand. Freedom was never about doing what you want. It's about knowing what you'll pay for doing it. And you've paid. With blood. With years. With names you don't speak anymore. There's a ledger in your head now. A weight. You tally it every night. What you gained. What you lost. What you gave up so you could wake up one more morning without a flag above you. There's power in that. But it doesn't feel like the stories. It feels like work, like pain, like sacrifice. You still spit when you hear a noble's name. Still sneer at laws written by cowards behind stone walls. But sometimes, when the sea is calm and the sails are full and no one's screaming, you wonder, was it worth it? Then the wind shifts, the beast creaks. The stars line up the way they always do, and you realise the truth. You didn't come here for freedom. You came here to fight for it. And fighting never ends. Not out here. Not until the sea decides she's done with you. You don't see them at first. You feel them in the silence. In the way the water changes. Smooth, then suddenly not. The sea goes still when they're close, like it knows, like it's holding its breath. The first time you see one, it's after a man goes overboard. Not during battle, not in a storm, just a slip. Deck slick with rain, hands slow with fatigue. One misstep, a shout, a splash. He surfaces, gasping, flailing. You run for rope, so do two others. But it's already too late. You see the fin rise, sharp, clean, confident, like it's done this before. You throw the rope anyway. The man sees it, reaches for it, then disappears. No scream, no blood, just bubbles, then a patch of foam, then nothing. The crew stands still. No one speaks. Not because it's rare, but because it isn't. That's the lesson. Sharks wait. Not for war. Not for storms. For mistakes. You start noticing them more after that. Grey shadows sliding beneath the hull, sometimes one, sometimes three. Once you count 7, all moving together, no sound, no hurry, just patience. Like they've learned your habits. When men go over now, no one dives after, no heroics, no rope unless you're sure. It's not cruelty, it's survival. Calder doesn't say a word about it, doesn't change course, doesn't tighten watch. He just posts a sign on the rail. 1 man over is not worth 2. That's all. You think about it at night. What it must be like to feel the pull, the current shift around you, the water go colder just before the strike. To see the shadow and know what's coming. Some say the sharks follow ships for days, that they know, that they smell death before it happens, that they don't just wait for men to fall, they wait for them to be thrown. Bram believes it. He tells you a story one night, a ship he served on years ago. Mutiny gone bad. 6 men bound and tossed one after another. The sharks never missed a beat. Each man vanished before hitting the second wave. Smart bastards, he says, smarter than half this crew. You believe him? Because sometimes, when you lean over the rail and stare into the black, you swear they're staring back. The water moves strange at night. No stars, no moon, just the ship's wake and the ripple of something waiting beneath. You start sleeping lighter again. You check your knots twice. You test every board before stepping. Not out of superstition, out of sense. Because the sea doesn't give warnings, and the sharks don't take chances. One night a fight breaks out on deck. Tension boiled over. Hunger, heat, paranoia. Doesn't matter the reason. A blade flashes. A body drops. Blood on the wood. Calder walks over, looks down, then points at the corpse. Over. Two men drag the body to the rail. Toss it without pause. You hear the splash. Then, seconds later, the frenzy. The water churns like boiling oil. You catch a glimpse of jaws, then just foam. And then stillness again. The sharks don't care what caused the death, just that it happened. You realise something in that moment. The sharks aren't just animals, they're a mirror. They reflect what this ship is now. Efficient. Silent. Hungry. They don't punish. They don't judge. They wait. And when you falter, they take. You think of all the stories sailors tell about curses and sea monsters and ships that vanish in the fog. But nothing out here is as terrifying as what's under your own feet. Because monsters with tentacles are rare. But teeth? Teeth are always waiting. And so are the sharks. You learn quickly that there's no such thing as mercy on a pirate ship. Only use. And when it comes to prisoners, it's never about justice. It's about value. Who's worth feeding? Who's worth keeping alive just long enough to trade, ransom, or bleed for information? That's the rule. You don't ask why. You just follow the weight of it. You take prisoners when the fight's too fast or too messy, when surrender comes too early or too late, when a man drops his blade and raises his hands, shaking, bloody, begging for air. You don't expect it to happen often, but sometimes it does. And when it does, the beast changes. The crew watches them like they're cargo, not people, not enemies, just meat in different stages of spoilage. Your first prisoner is a boy, maybe 16, maybe less. He's found hiding below deck after a skirmish, knees drawn to his chest, clutching a broken knife like it's enough. Bram hauls him out by the collar. The boy doesn't beg, doesn't cry, just stares at Calder like he's trying to memorize the man who will kill him. But Calder doesn't. He orders the boy bound, tied to the mast. No food, no questions. Not yet. Let him bake in the sun a while, he says. Salt him before we taste. No one laughs. Because everyone knows. It's not a joke. The boy lasts 2 days like that. No water, no sleep. You're told not to speak to him. Still, you catch him looking at you, not angry, not scared, just resigned. He doesn't say anything until the third night. Then, barely above a whisper, "Why haven't you killed me yet?" You don't answer. Because the truth, you don't know. No. Maybe Calder wants to trade him. Maybe he wants to make a point. Maybe he's waiting to see if the boy cracks, begs, becomes useful. You ask Thorn. He shrugs. Sometimes people are worth more afraid than dead. And that's the logic you learn to follow. Because not all plunder is gold. Some of it breathes. Sometimes you take prisoners not for ransom but for work. Slaves in all but name, tied to rope, put on watch, given no blade, no boots, no coin. They clean the bilge, patch the hull, taste the food for poison. They die often, quietly, in corners. No one counts them. No one remembers names. One man tried to run during a port call, barefoot, bleeding. Thorn caught him just before he cleared the docks. They didn't whip him. They didn't beat him. They made the crew watch while Calder walked him to the end of the pier. He handed the man a knife. "If you make it past the current," he said, "you're free." The man looked at the water, looked at the knife, then stabbed himself in the stomach and leapt. The sharks didn't wait long. That night, Calder told no stories. Just stared at the crew and said, "Freedom's not a gift, it's a debt." Then he walked away. The plunder always matters more than the prisoner. Every raid, every skirmish, every dead man is weighed against what they leave behind. Rum, powder, maps, steel, fresh water, clothes in good condition, a journal with names, a coded letter. One time you board a ship with nothing but salted meat and a captain tied to his own mast, whipped near to death. He begs for his life, offers you cargo no one can find. Calder listens, then orders the man thrown overboard. No argument, because the cargo wasn't here, and the captain no longer useful. Another time, you take a surgeon prisoner, real medical knowledge, hands that can stitch flesh and pull bullets without shaking. He's kept alive, fed, given a small bunk, but not trusted. You find him dead 2 weeks later, throat slit, body folded in the sail locker like old rope. No one admits to it, but you hear a whisper from one of the crew. He looked at the captain wrong. And that's all it takes. Priorities. Out here, they change fast. 1 week it's water, the next it's salt, then powder, then someone who can read charts, then a boy tied to the mast who might speak 3 languages. Everything's measured by how close you are to dying. You stop thinking of people as people. You start thinking in weight. Can he carry a barrel? Can she point a pistol? Can this man get us through the strait faster than we could ourselves? Then keep him. If not, let the sea decide. You're not proud of it, but you're alive. And out here, morality doesn't pay in coin, only breath. Just like treasure, just like time. The price of freedom? It's measured in prisoners. Port is the dream. That's what they tell you when you first sign on. The promise. The pause. The breath between storms. But the first time you make landfall after months at sea, you learn fast. Port isn't rest. It's temptation. It's rot. It's where everything you've held together out there falls apart in here. You dock somewhere nameless, a slip of a harbour pressed between jungle and mud, with too many boats and too few rules. The buildings lean like tired old men. The air smells like smoke, rum and sweat. And the women are already waiting. They know the look of a sea-wrecked crew. They know the limp in your leg, the hunger in your eyes. You step off the beast and your legs wobble. Not from weakness, from weight. The weight of what you've carried. Freedom, Calder said once, is just permission to fall apart. And in port, everyone falls. Some head straight for the brothels. Others vanish into alleys with coin clutched in shaking hands. Some just sit in the dirt and drink themselves silent. You wonder. The town is loud, too loud, colours too bright, smells too thick. You miss the sea within an hour. Miss the way the wind didn't lie. Miss the quiet cruelty of it all. Because here, the danger smiles at you. You find her in a candlelit room, above a bar with no name, leaning on a windowsill like she's been waiting for you specifically. Hair tied back, eyes dark, skin sun-warmed. She doesn't ask your name, doesn't care, just pulls you inside, closes the shutters and takes what she wants. You're not the only one. Love, they call it. But it's not love. Something else. Something older. Need. Grief. Loneliness weaponized into touch. You don't even realise how broken you are until someone holds you without wanting to kill you. That night you sleep in a bed that doesn't move. You wake up disoriented, sweaty, too warm, a cough burning your chest. You ignore it, because there's still time. But port always has two faces. One is pleasure, the other is plague. It starts slow. A man coughing on the dock, a girl vomiting in the alley, another sailor laid up in the tavern, soaked in sweat, muttering names no one recognises. By the second night, the crew's coughing. By the third, someone dies. Not in a fight. Not with a knife. Just doesn't wake up. Thorn goes pale. Swamp fever, he says, or worse. Calder wastes no time. All crew aboard. Now. Some argue, some beg. Some are still drunk in beds they haven't paid for. Calder doesn't care. He gives the order. Anyone not on deck by sundown gets left. You barely make it. Some don't. Two men vanish into the back streets. One stumbles out an hour later, lips purple. Dies before his boots touch the plank. The other? Never seen again. You sail at dawn. Sails stiff. Crews silent. No songs, no laughter, just coughing. You count 7 sick in the first 2 days. Calder has them isolated below deck. No visits, no medicine. Just a bucket. And time, 3 recover. 4 don't. You wrap them in canvas, slide them into the sea. Their names spoken once quietly by Thorn. That's all they get. That's all anyone gets. Port promised relief. But all it gave was memory of skin, of fire, of warm beds and warmer hands that cost more than coin. You think about her, the one with the eyes. She didn't tell you her name either. You don't blame her. No one in that town wanted names. Names mean remembering, and remembering hurts. The lesson is clear. Love is a lie in port. So is safety. So is healing. What you get is the illusion, and a fever, and maybe, if you're lucky, the strength to crawl back to sea. The beast creaks under your boots again. And you realise she's the only one who never lied to you. There's a rule you learn fast when sailing under the black. Every port has a gallows, somewhere, tucked behind the customs house, mounted outside the courthouse, hanging from the tallest tree on the edge of town, where the branches reach toward the sea like fingers begging for mercy, and hanging from them, always, someone who looks like you. Not a noble, not a merchant, a sailor, a thief, a pirate, someone who thought they could outrun land. You don't outrun land. Land keeps receipts. You feel it the moment the beast pulls into harbour again. Different town, different continent even, but the same truth. The dockhands won't meet your eyes. The guard patrols with muskets too clean, and you see it near the edge of the square. Wood darkened by rain, ropes swinging lazily in the breeze like it's waiting for someone familiar. 3 hanged last week, Thorn says, not even looking. 2 for theft, 1 for wearing the wrong flag. A trial, no jury. Just weight and gravity. The crew moves quiet, boots light, no shouting, no drinking in public, no fights unless it's worth dying for. Everyone knows the gallows don't care about intent. Only appearances. You've been here before. Maybe not this town, but this feeling. That tightening in your gut. That knowledge that one wrong word, one familiar scar, one drunk who recognises the cut of your coat and your neck meets hemp. You try to avoid the centre of town, but you pass through anyway, heading for a smithy, a sailmaker, a roomer. And there it is. The noose. Empty now. Just a loop above the platform swaying. A boy stands nearby, local, barely 10. He's staring at it like it tells stories. Maybe it does. He looks at you, asks, "Was it quick?" You don't answer. Because sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. You remember a man once, caught stealing from his own crew. They dragged him into port, handed him over. Thought it would be quick. A warning, a lesson. But the hangman was drunk. Tied the knot wrong. The man didn't drop clean. He choked, twitched, eyes bulging, face turning blue. Took nearly 3 minutes to die. Calder watched from the dock. He didn't flinch. Didn't turn away. You asked him why, later. He said, "If a man's brave enough to swing, the least I can do is bear witness." It stuck with you. Because Calder doesn't scare easily, but he respects the rope. In this town you hear talk of bounties. New posters. New prices. They're getting closer. Names more accurate. Descriptions too good to be guesses. Someone's been talking. Maybe a prisoner you left breathing. Maybe a crewman with a grudge. Maybe someone desperate enough to sell information to stay alive another month. You start keeping your hood up. Start carrying your blade higher on your back where it's quieter to draw. Start watching everyone who watches you. Because justice on land is different from justice at sea. At sea, justice is negotiated, traded, measured. On land, it's performance. A gallows isn't about punishment. It's about display, fear, spectacle. It's there to remind you that freedom has boundaries, and they end where the rope begins. One night, someone doesn't make it back to the ship. Crewman named Nestor, loud, young, too eager, said he was just going to stretch his legs. You find him 2 mornings later. Not in the town. Outside it. Off the main road. Hung from a tree without ceremony. His boots gone. His pockets turned out. A note pinned to his chest. 1 fewer. That's all. Thorn cuts him down. Doesn't speak. You dig a hole with your hands. No words. Just dirt. The beast leaves before dusk. No one drinks. No one talks. Because the truth is this. Every time you dock, the noose gets closer. Every port is a coin toss. Every night ashore might be your last. Not because of storms. Not because of sharks. But because of laws. Ropes. And people who still believe in kings. You tell yourself it's worth it. That the sea is freedom. That the beast is your haven. That no land will ever own you. But when you close your eyes at night, you still see it, that swinging loop. Empty. Waiting. You don't always know when it's the last one. The last skirmish. The last shout. The last cannon loaded with your shaking hands and fired into fog. But sometimes you do. The air feels different. Heavier. Like it's waiting to close in behind you. It starts with a ship, too fast, too clean. White sails, red hull, polished brass like a mirror. You spot her at dawn, half a league out, moving hard against the wind. Calder's already at the rail, glass in hand. He watches her for a full minute before saying a word. Then, she's not chasing us, she's hunting us. You don't need orders. The crew's already in motion. Powder brought up. Blades oiled. Pistols checked and tucked. You know the drill. But this time it doesn't feel like routine. It feels like ritual. Thorn mutters a prayer you've never heard. Ram ties red cloth around his arm. He says it's luck. You ask what it means. He shrugs. If I die, they'll know which body's mine. The ship gains. Faster than expected. The sea doesn't slow her. The wind doesn't stop her. She's quiet, and that's what terrifies you most. No battle flag, no signal, just steel purpose. You're outgunned. Everyone knows it. 20 cannons by your count. Probably more, and she's fresh. Crew not half dead from sickness and hunger. The beast? She's tired. Her sails patched. Her hull pocked with scars. The ropes fray if you pull too hard, but Calder doesn't retreat. He never has. He stands at the helm like a man facing down fate with nothing but the truth. And the truth is this: there's nowhere left to run. You fire first. A long shot, wild, more noise than aim, but it answers. Her broadside lands like a hammer. Deck splinters. A man screams, and then it begins. Steel and smoke, salt and fury, a storm of noise and fire. You man a cannon, load, fire, again. You can't hear your own breath anymore, can't feel your feet. Just the weight of the iron, the heat of the blast, the chaos all around. Boarding lines fly. They're coming, and now it's blades again. The deck becomes slaughter. You lose count of how many fall. Friend, enemy, blood makes no distinction. You see Bram go down. His red cloth soaked darker. You don't stop. You can't. You fight like the sea's already swallowed you. Your sword breaks. You grab an axe. Someone grabs your coat. You spin, buried in his chest. Calder? Still standing. Bleeding, but breathing. Cutting down anyone who gets close. Then a barrel explodes. Powder, sparked by a stray shot. Midship ruptures. You're thrown backward. When you open your eyes, the sky is wrong, tilted, and the beast is screaming. Not the crew, the ship. Wood splitting. Metal groaning, like she knows it's the end. You crawl, grab rope, pull yourself toward the quarterdeck. Flames licking the sail. Water rushing up the steps. Then you see the last barrel. No. Groaning, like she knows it's the end. You crawl, grab rope, pull yourself toward the quarterdeck. Flames licking the sail. Water rushing up the steps. Then you see the last barrel. Powder, sealed. One shot left in it. And Calder standing over it with flint in one hand and something like peace in the other. He looks at you. Doesn't speak. Just nods. You nod back. Because you understand, this isn't surrender. It's a statement. They don't get to take the beast. She was never theirs to win. You leap. Hit the water just as the spark hits the barrel. The blast knocks the sea sideways. A wave swallows you whole. You don't know how long you're under. You just drift. Salt in your mouth. The weight of the fight still in your bones. When you surface, the sky is full of fire. The other ship lists, hull shattered. The beast is gone. No masts, no sails, just smoke and memory. You cling to driftwood. Float. Breathe. That's all you can do now. That's all any pirate ever does in the end. You think of Bram, of Thorn, of the boy who asked why you didn't kill him. You think of the rope, the sea, the noose that never got you, and the beast that finally did. And you realise this was always the only way it could end. Not in port, not at the gallows, but here, at sea, with the last barrel spent, and the last breath your own. You're floating, not on the deck, not in your hammock, not in your bed back home if that place ever existed. You're just there, somewhere between sky and sea, breath and memory. The beast is gone, the crew scattered, the flag burned, the story almost finished. And you survived. But out here that word doesn't mean what it used to. Survival doesn't mean winning, doesn't mean riches, doesn't mean peace. It means scars. It means silence. It means waking up one more day in a world that wanted you dead yesterday and still might tomorrow. What did it take? to live this long? Everything. It took pain, hunger, fire, steel. It took salt in your eyes and blood on your hands. It took choosing the rope over the law, the knife over the oath, the truth over the lie that you could ever walk away clean. And still, you made it. You made it through the noise, through the betrayals, through the smoke and screams and storms and sharks and shadows, through the chapters no one will write down, but we did, together. That's what we do here. We tell the stories no one else will. The real ones. The ones that smell like gunpowder and ash. The ones that show what war really takes when it doesn't come with medals. Because sleep shouldn't mean escape. Sometimes it should mean remembrance. And if you're still awake, still listening, then maybe, just maybe, you were meant for this story all along. So, before you drift, before the tide pulls you under, before the next ship rises out of the fog and another war begins, do one thing for me. Subscribe. Not for me, for the others. For the ones still lost out there, waiting to be remembered. This has been War Stories for Sleep. And tonight, you survived the sea. Now rest. We've got more storms to face tomorrow.